Good morning, Dun. Good morning, Marina. How's everybody feeling today?
Fine.
So honored to have the both of you here with us this morning. Can you tell us about your childhood? How were you as a child? I'm very curious to know.
I think I had a happy childhood, being the youngest daughter in a family of 10, but I have 4 other younger brothers after me. So although I'm the youngest daughter, I was not treated as a girl, I play together with my brothers. I have a very happy childhood with my brothers.
How many other sisters did you have?
2.
2 other sisters.
One passed away, Tan Sri Saleha. And at the moment, I have my other sister, Jamia. She's now 95. And that's it. And 2 other younger brothers. I have 2 younger brothers. We
Now-
are the survivors.
Oh, the survivors.
We are survivors of a family of 10. 7 boys, 3 girls.
Wow.
And I was a tomboy.
Now, you wanted to be a journalist when you were younger, right? But what made you choose medicine instead?
I think the Japanese occupation did that to me. Did that for me because I love reading. I love writing. It is why I wanted to become a journalist. But during the Japanese occupation, my mother suffered very bad diarrhea, and we thought we would lose her during that time, and because especially when my father called all 10 of us, nine of us, to be with her and to be with him also, and to say prayers for my mother, because she was very, very bad. She couldn't leave the bathroom. So I said, I think that struck me. If only I can do something to people who are sick like my mother. And then alhamdulillah, God helped me and God heard me, and that's it.
And you went to medicine school, and that's where you met Tun as well, Tun Mahathir.
Who made the first move?
I think I did.
Really?
No. I did because I failed.
Oh, okay. Failed.
I failed in physics and chemistry, which I never had in school.
Okay.
I had only botany. So we had tuition in Singapore, at the university level. There was a college at the time. And we had tuition for 1 year and a half, or next year, or the second year too. But I failed my first year.
Right.
Yes, and so he was kind enough, because he was one of those in our group of tuition, only Malay boys and 1 girl. And then we got to be friendly. He was very determined. He was very sincere to help his countrywoman
Yes.
to pass the exams
And pass you did. But
after many years.
yeah.
Well, in the 1940s and the 50s, when you were growing up, what was it like for women back then? Did you feel a little bit more marginalized back then?
That time I was too small to think of anything else. But that time there were very, very few women, but they are mostly in politics, not qualified in something else. I can't think of, except for my sister, she went overseas to learn how to be a teacher in Kirkby, or what's the other one in the place? But where's that? Brentford, yes. But my brother, Governor Ismail, he was there, and then he persuaded my sister to change her intention of being a teacher, and she did economy and law at the London School of Economy. So that time there were very few, but after it's only, but before the Japanese came, women are not seen, and besides there are more European women than Malaysians at Malays or Chinese or Indians at that time, Malayans. But because they were in control, even the matron, even the chief sister in the hospital were all Europeans, British. And we have to just occupy ourselves by just plain nursing. Yeah. Until they went off after our Merdeka. So one by one they left. And then only our Malaysian women, Malayan women at that time, take their part, and they were very good.
Those are different times.
Yes.
It seems like all your entire family, from your family, they're all educated women and all that. But were there any homemakers or
Yes.
housewives?
Yeah. There were only three to
girls.
become housewives in the family of 10. Now, the boys were all okay. And it was my father and my mother also, because they were the ones who pushed us regarding our education, especially my father. He has got a passion for education, and he told us from the beginning, he told everybody from the beginning that he has no discrimination between daughters and sons where education is concerned. He treated them equally and sent us to school to learn English. And the funny thing is that this was after the war, before the war. He puts us into English schools, and for me, all the schools that were there at that time were all mission schools. And other people were scared to send their children to these mission schools. My father didn't. He sent us wherever to study English. So much so that he until today I can't understand why my father sent me to a Methodist boys Sunday school.
Huh. What,
So,
really?
Yeah, so he doesn't think of anything else. He wants us to learn English, whether it's a Sunday school or whatever school. English is his objective.
Now, I'm sure you're grateful that your father was passionate about education
course,
and didn't matter the gender. They wanted both their daughters and their sons to be educated. But I think back in that time, that wasn't the case for all families, right?
No. Father sent us to the English school first, and we have to. The instruction was that those children who go into English school first will have to go to the Malay school for 2 years.
Right.
Over the weekends for 2 years to get back their Jawi and other subjects in the Malay school. So from Monday to Sunday, study English and Malay, Jawi especially. And I was very grateful because mother couldn't read Romanized Malay.
Okay.
She was learning Jawi, so I have to learn the language also. That's how I corresponded with my mother when I was in Singapore.
So now it sounds a lot like your father is a huge inspiration
Yes.
to you. And was, when you look at your father and also we look at Tun M, is he like almost like a mirror image of your father when it comes to qualities that you looked for in a man? Was that one of the big things that you looked for in Tun M?
Well, not really, but I wanted someone to guide me, to learn whatever comes every year in college. But the thing that really makes me, which reminds me all the time about my father, was that he has a principle. He said, if I teach my son, only my son will benefit. If I send my daughters to school, I will not only be teaching my daughters, but she will be teaching the nation.
Wow.
So, and looking back, all what he said, all what he wished for, came true. Inshallah, I was very happy that I was born a girl, and then I was happy that I studied and became a doctor, and then worked in places which really need doctors.
Now, after meeting Tun M in medical school, you guys got married in 1956. When you first got married, what was Tun Dr. Mahathir's expectation of you as his wife? Did he
Maybe.
wanted you to stay at home, or
No.
was there ever a discussion about this?
No.
Never.
No. He knew that he married a doctor, and I knew also that I married a doctor in Ulu Kedah. So I went to Kedah to stay with my husband and started working in the hospital as just a MO.
Well, we have also your daughter here, Datin Paduka Marina, who's actually in the studio with us. What was it like when you gave birth to Marina? Did you stay home at that time, or did you continue to work when you were pregnant with her?
I know when I was pregnant.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was up to the last day, last minute. I
You
was
were working. Okay.
I was working.
You were working until the day you gave birth.
Yes.
Right. So now I see where the workaholic in her comes out from.
As a new mother now to Marina and a doctor, like, was it difficult for you to juggle both home and work?
No.
What did you do?
The thing is, we were staying near our relatives. The extended family is around, and so my sisters-in-law come. We have a childcare attendant, and this lady was to look after my baby, and my sisters-in-law come and to and from our house and their house to see whether everything's okay, especially when we have both of us working in the hospital.
Now, Tun, what do you believe is the biggest takeaway from your life?
Because
Takeaway, like biggest lesson from your life that Malaysian women can take home and be inspired by?
one is education, which my parents was determined to give us. That one, and then when they have their family, to really be a mother to them, and to have contact with the children from day one, and otherwise we will lose them. Although there are many people who say that they didn't have to go to school and they can help the mother, especially girls, the mother at home. No, education is number one for all the mothers and the children. We have to encourage the mothers to be educated themselves, and then they can teach their children. And that is what my father wanted us to do.
How about your advice for working women? Like, how can they work and self-fulfillment for their own career, as well as take care of a family at home as well? Like, how did you do it?
Well, first thing is I wanted to become a doctor, and that is a fulfillment of my parents' wish, and my siblings also. And then after that, to understand life that's going on around you. When I was in hospital, it was, hospital receives patients to be treated, right? Whereas in the rural areas, public health area, you go there to teach people, to make them aware of the illness that surround them, and that they will get it sometime or other, and that we want them to be prevented from such diseases. There are two aspects, because I can show you an example. When I was in hospital, the patient comes from the rural areas. Everybody was jumping. It's marah. Kenapa pakcik ni lambat?
Oh.
Kenapa bawa ni lambat? Kenapa bawa ni lambat? And not only the nursing hospital, the doctors also jump. I was jumping also. Sad to say, I was scolding the father. Why did you bring it so late? 3 days after delivery, retained placenta. Why did you come? And I didn't know the answer until I was transferred to rural areas. And Tun Abdul Raza, our wonderful statesman, was at that time the Prime Minister. So after that, macam mana nak datang? Some of them were brave enough to tell us, because they were afraid to bring anyone or themselves to hospital for treatment. Pergi ke hospital pun mati katanya.
Oh, wow.
That's what they said.
Those were the views.
But they didn't realize that it was them, the culture. And the beliefs, that the woman must have the permission of the husband, of course, and then the mother or the old folks, that the Tok Bidan, the Tok Pengulu dan Tok Agama. By the time they get all the permission, then they have to seek transportation. There was no transportation then, until Tun Razak opened up the Rural Development Program, 5-year development. That was a blessing.
That's when things changed.
Yes, and I was very happy that I was there from the beginning to the end.
And then that's when women started to be able to do a lot more.
Yes.
But how did you split your time between work, helping people in the rural areas, in your hospital, and your family and your children at home?
Well, when I was transferred to rural areas, the hospital was left for somebody. It was upgraded to the General Hospital Alusta for the training of housemen. So it was to be upgraded. And I was the first acting medical superintendent, first Malay. Okay. I was very proud. Yeah, and then, of course, when I was in rural areas, posting of medical officer of health, and I have a bit of free time, and I didn't have to go to the hospital late in the morning, so I have more time with the children. I have to spend more time with the children than at that particular area, because not only Marina has come, there's Mirzan and Mozani and Mukris. And Mukris was our last youngest son, and was born 1964, and I still remember 1963 I was already pregnant, and then I was acting medical superintendent, and then I have been telling the state medical and health officer to please bring someone to take my place, because I'm almost full term now, and I want someone to take over so I can hand over the job. Yes, and luckily Dr. Datin came. So I had to take him around. It's just a courtesy for me to take him around, to introduce him to the whole hospital staff and doctors. And then that night, Mahathir has to go to take a train to come to Kuala Lumpur for his first parliamentary session.
Right.
1964.
Yeah.
And he has to do thank the king for his speech or something that time.
Right.
First one. And he was in a dilemma whether to go or whether to leave me, because I already started.
You're already full term. Yeah, you're almost full term.
Not only that, not in full term, I have been leaking. So,
right.
So I said, no, you go.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil his epic, become medical.
It's a balancing act, really, isn't it?
His historical moment. Now, let's go to Datin Paduka Marina. Growing up, what do you remember most about your mom? Was she the disciplinarian?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Or
Instantly, yes.
She's the enforcer, basically, So, yeah, very strict with all of us, especially about school and things like that. So, yeah, whether we got our homework done or exam time, things like that.
Okay. Did you always feel like she had to split her time between work and children?
No, actually no, because in those days, people worked from 8 until 4, and then they'd be home. And we would go to school from 7:30 until, I don't know what time it was, but 1:30 like that. So we'd have a few hours where basically we would rest and play and all that. And then in a few hours, they'd be home at 4 o'clock. And also that my parents used to come home for lunch. So we'd see them at lunchtime, then we'd see them at tea time, and then that'll be another 4 hours before we went to bed or so. So actually we just thought it was normal. We didn't feel like
They're working parents, right? It's just natural.
it was that's just a normal daily routine.
Yeah.
But how did your mom change your view or shape your views on women's rights and equality, being a working mom?
Well, I don't think she deliberately set out to do that. I think, sometimes these things happen by osmosis, really. This is what you see all your life. This is what you expect as normal. And you just grow up with it. And so for me, it was normal for a woman to be working, even though she's married and has children. It's normal for her to have equal stature with her husband, to be involved in all the decisions at home, and that sort of thing. The one thing I would say is that my mom doesn't cook, so I didn't grow up with a mom who knew how to cook, and so I kind of don't know, didn't know anyway, as a child, much about the kitchen or how to put food together or anything like that. We had, helpers to do that. So, I just grew up that way. And my daughters too grew up that way because they saw their grandmother and they saw me. And it's something that I think you don't have to push. You set the example and they will absorb it, because now I see my daughters as they grow up naturally, thinking that way, thinking that they should work and thinking that they should give back to society, because that's the example. That's the example they've seen all their lives.
So, how different was it for you growing up, like in the 60s and 70s, compared to Tun Siti in the 40s and 50s? Did you feel like there was a lack of equality even in the 60s and 70s at the time?
Not particularly. Like my mom, I think when you're growing up, you don't feel that way. I mean, well, she was lucky that she had my grandfather who really believed in, education for girls and emancipation. I mean, I knew my grandfather, and he was a remarkable man. He really was, I mean, he believed in equality for women. And yet he worked in the Pejabat Agama, Selangor.
Right. Yeah.
He was responsible for the laws that, gave women the right to, or rather, the laws that said that men had to get the signed consent of their first wife if they wanted to take another one.
Okay.
That came from my grandfather.
Okay.
So he was really, he had set the tone already. But when I grew up in Alostar, obviously I only saw my grandparents during school holidays. I didn't feel it was that much different. I went to school. School was very important. There was no question of any rebellion against school, and that sort of.
Were there more? Was it a girls' school or was there more
I went to a convent school.
I see.
I went to convent school from like age 3, kindergarten, all the way up to Form 3. So I spent a lot of time there.
Actually, what I want to find out is, because you're very well known to be, human rights, social injustices. You're quite the activist. How did that start? When did that start?
I don't know. I think that started really, actively when I was an adult, very much. But I saw the example of my parents also. They were always volunteering. My mom, every Wednesday, she would volunteer at the family planning clinic.
All right.
And I was very aware of that simply because she would always drop us at our grandparents, and I got to read all the Bino and Dandy that my uncles had.
Right,
so that was always fixed in my mind. Every Wednesday is Bino and Dandy Day.
So that means mom is volunteering.
Yes. And my dad was head of the anti-TB association, anti-tuberculosis, and we had to, go and attend events when they had fundraisers and all that sort of thing. So again, this is osmosis, right?
Yeah.
You see these examples and it just comes in.
You absorb, yeah.
But of course it can take different forms, and like it or not, I had a different exposures. I went to the UK to do my A-levels and then to do university. And at university, I went to quite a radical one. I went to University of Sussex. And
Who picked that university though?
I did.
Oh,
I
right.
did. I had,
How did mom feel about that?
Nothing. They just left it to me. I did all the ACA
I'll
stuff.
tell you later.
I did all the ACA stuff myself. But Sussex, there was a Mandela Hall, and until then I didn't know who Nelson Mandela was. And then so I learned, he's an anti-apartheid. I must say that from young, there were two things that my parents did insist on in terms of like political awareness. One was that apartheid was terrible. And like we were not allowed to have any pen friends or something from South Africa, nor from Israel because of the Palestine issue.
Yeah.
So those two things we were aware from young. But I went to Sussex, and there was Mandela Hall. There were people demonstrating against apartheid or against various human rights issues, and that. So I found that wow, I don't know anything at all. And that's how I learned. But I wouldn't say I was much of an activist at all at university. I was,
Those were your
more focused on having fun. But so much later, really, when I came back to work, and I started to, when I was working as a journalist, and we had fundraisers, and we were raising funds for different charities, so we had to find out about the charities, and Women's Aid was one of them. That's how I learned about domestic violence. And then it went on, and I think the real tipping point, as Malcolm Gladwell likes to say, is me joining the Malaysia AIDS Foundation.
right.
Because when I joined, they really thought I was joining just as a fundraiser. And that's what I thought I was too. And then I realized that you really can't raise funds unless you understand what you're raising funds for. And that's how I learned. And then I thought, this is unjust. Why should people be discriminated against because they have an illness? And because they're vulnerable to the illness. And that's really how it all began.
Now, okay, let's go to this year's International Women's Day theme, which is I am Generation Equality, Realizing Women's Right. Do you personally feel that society now is changing more and more and recognizing women more and more?
Yeah.
Yes and no. Nowadays we take a lot of things for granted. We take it as a given that girls will be educated, and now we have more girls in the universities than we have boys. We take it for granted that girls can be doctors, engineers, can drive cars, can be CEOs of big companies, chairman, even all sorts of things. There's kind of very few restrictions, but some attitudes have not changed either. The idea that you have to do both. You still have to be the perfect mother at home, but you also have to be the perfect worker at work. And you get penalized for defaulting on either one of them, whereas men are just, they are assessed based just on their work. And they still, there are surveys all around the world that even in the best countries where you think that gender equality is a given, when it comes to housework, men are still doing less. Or they're doing some parts of the housework, whereas women are doing the greater part of it. And they're more finicky and, awful bits of it. So, and that's clear here. I mean, a few years ago, there was government statistics that said that 40% of girls who graduated from our universities didn't even join the workforce because they got married or they just found it too difficult to find a job, and to find that there's really no support at work for working women. The government's tried to address that with, creches and all that, and trying to get some of the companies, private sector companies to also have flexi hours, to have creches and all that. But it's still a struggle for a lot of women. And we still have problems of domestic violence is still happening. Sexual harassment is still happening. And hopefully in the next parliament we'll be pushing a sexual harassment bill, because those are the things that deter women from going out to work, because the environment in the workplace is so uncomfortable, that they don't want to deal with it. But it deprives them of income and that sort of thing.
A potential rich experience as well, right?
And an experience where they can fulfill their own potential, right?
Tun Siti, what about you? I mean, you trailblaze a lot for women, even back in the day and until now. Do you think society has changed for women?
To me, I think there are changes, and the women are now very more smarter than the guys, and they know what they want, and some of them, as you notice, they go only for the career, so much so that they won't even get married and have a family. So they want a career. So that's why they are fighting hard to get the qualification wherever they want to go, and then to come back and work again with either the private or public sector. But the thing is, sometimes they qualify in certain fields that we in Malaysia, it's hard to accommodate them. For example, senior engineer, a woman can, and also other fields in the oil and gas field. And I was very surprised. There are women there, and they are brave enough to go even up the rig, and not only the rig that's offshore or onshore, but also they have these floaters. It's a rig, but they float, and women the 150 rooms in the floater, and they were inside the 150 of them.
So women can do whatever men can do, and sometimes even better. But if there were any things that you would like to see changed when it comes to gender equality, now what would you like to see changed?
I think women these days has a better deal than we were during that time. Now the maternity leave for women 3 months, whereas we got only 42 days before.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yes. And I don't see why many more women should be deprived of what we want them to. We want to see them is in the policy making level, for them to be together with the men,
right,
to set out the policies of any field that the government wants to.
So more women in politics. You like to see that?
Well, in decision-making positions, politics is important, but also in the corporate sector. As we know, it thins out, right? You get women working, a lot of women at the base, and then it gets, less and less until you get to the top. And that's where the important decisions are made.
That's a perfect way to end this.
Thank you so much.
This was great. Tun Siti, come back anytime. We would love to have you here. We would love to hear the stories, and I'll go and play golf with you as well. Marina, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much, ladies.
Thanks.